welcome. It is wonderful to have everyone here. I'd like to first acknowledge that we are gathering on the lands of the Squamish, Musqueam, and Tsleil-Waututh peoples on their unceded territory. I will also acknowledge, because that 9 o'clock midnight element is important for everyone on Zoom, that we are broadcasting through our campuses in New Jersey as well for the Lenni Lenape people and their territories. With great pleasure, I will turn over the floor to Zoe Dickinson. She is a poet and bookseller from Victoria, BC. She has been published in literary journals such as Existere, which is York University, Prairie Fire, and Contemporary Verse 2. Her first chapbook, Public Transit, was published in 2015 by Leaf Press, and her second chapbook, Intertidal Poems from the Littoral Zone, is the 2022 winner of the Raven Chapbook competition. Bravo, Zoe. She is a manager at Russell Books and the artistic director of Planet Earth Poetry Reading Series. Welcome. Thank you for being with us.
Thank you so much. So yes, this is my second chapbook, and I love it so much. It's Raven Chapbooks did a wonderful job with it. So pretty, look, colorful. And I'm just going to read because I have 5 minutes. So I like to start with this poem if I can fit it in, and I just want to say that this poem is about the inadequacy of territorial acknowledgements, and I'm deeply aware of the inadequacy of this poem as well. But here it is anyway. I'd like to start by acknowledging. I'd like to start by acknowledging that this poem is being written on the unceded territories of the Lekwungen-speaking peoples, the Songhees and Esquimalt nations. I'd like to start by acknowledging that I have no idea what that means. I have the luxury of continuing to live my life without understanding what I've stolen. I'd like to start by acknowledging that my life takes place where someone else's life should be happening, that where my apartment building sits, someone should be gathering camas bulbs, but instead, not far away, she is boiling water before mixing her baby's formula. I'd like to start by acknowledging that I fit perfectly into this long, slow genocide, this machinery so silent that I was born and raised on top of its invisible back, without ever hearing the sound of people dying, the sound of people rising, protecting, fighting. This machinery can't stop killing, cradles my body as precious, but when I'm not in the room, bullets just slip out, as though death is a natural byproduct of keeping me safe. I'd like to acknowledge that I don't know how to live here without doing harm, but I don't want to live anywhere else. I'd like to acknowledge that every day I make the choice to live on this land, and I'm saving my money because someday I'd like to buy a piece of it, even though I know it doesn't belong to the current owners, even though I know we cannot begin to repay what we continue to take. I'd like to acknowledge that I mouth words of acknowledgement, like a spell to ward off colonialism, like a cloak to cover how comfortable I am here, living my life on top of an ongoing struggle for survival. I pronounce and mispronounce these words like a half-learned prayer, like an excuse, like a neon flashing sign that says, "It's not me, I didn't do it," as though saying it out loud will somehow make me less complicit. I'd like to acknowledge that this poem was written on the unceded territories of the Lekwungen-speaking peoples. Choosing to acknowledge or not acknowledge this truth does not change the fact that I live inside it. Every word that I write, read, think, and speak has the power to reveal or obscure it. And if poetry is a way of learning to know the world, then I want my poems to show this truth, not hide it. And if I'm honest, those are the only two choices. So most of the poems in this book are actually about creatures that live in the intertidal zone. And the picture on the front is of a bull kelp kind of shown from below. Yeah, there's not a whole lot of humans in here. So I wanted to read one tidal pool creature poem as sort of representative of most of the content of this book. So this poem is called Starfish, and it's got an epigraph by Jan Zwicky from her poem Apple Song. And the epigraph is, red one, how strange, the leavings of desire. Beloved, I mourn your raspberry collapse. Osmosis dissolves the purple echo until you might never have been. Water still as iron in rock's cupped hand. You were not a star, nor a fish. You, ancient miracle of hydraulics. You, collection of conscious currents. You, linchpin. You, zipper, undoing an ecosystem with your death. You, who could regrow from a fragment, unraveled in one day. You carried an eye on each bloodless arm, but did not see this coming. That poem is about starfish wasting disease, which is unfortunately a scourge up and down the coast here. And I think I have time for one more little short one. And this is one of the only poems in this book that mentions humans explicitly. We don't really come across very well in this book, but I want to end on a hopeful note. So this poem is called Hope for the Human Race. Mosquitoes live on nectar, alight on pin cherry blossoms, gentle as butterfly or bee. Extract sweetness with needle noses, leaving no itch. The blood they steal does not sustain them. It's a selfless theft, a desperate protein heist to gain building blocks for the next generation. The snow pool mosquito carries pollen in its eye from orchid to orchid, 1,500 feet above sea level. How the orchid changes the mosquito's view of the world. How the mosquito's gaze carries messages between flowers after dark. How human blood becomes a link in this ancient chain, and we, accidentally, nourish a constellation of blooms, is proof that even the worst pest fulfills a purpose in the ecosystem, despite ourselves. Thank you.